it's very late from where Mary is broadcasting from. She's in New Zealand and she's very kindly offered to do this webinar for us. I think it's 9 p.m, quite a late night to be presenting. So I would like to welcome you all, and I will actually read to you Mary's biography so that you, if you don't know already, you'll get a bit of background information about Mary. So Mary Ashby-Green has been in private practice for nearly 15 years, working primarily with children and their families to create a pathway for getting things back on track, whether it's anxiety, relationship conflicts, behavioural, emotional, or learning difficulties. Previously, as a teacher and a primary school principal, Mary specialised in working with children who had learning and behavioural difficulties. She brings a practical, solution-based approach to discovering what's blocking a child from feeling happy and successful, and what's stopping them from moving forward, feeling capable and confident, and setting them free to manage their daily lives. Mary is the co-founder of Colournostics. It's a simple yet profound 5-step process that pinpoints the problem, clears blocks, and provides a new positive perspective. Colournostics is a powerful combination of colour psychology and NLP, and it provides children with a very unique way to express their feelings and understand their issues so that they can discover their own authentic and workable solutions. So coming from a large family, Mary has an affinity and fascination with family dynamics and loves using Colournostics tool to make a difference for families. So we're very fortunate. I think we really need this for our future generations, this type of work, which is simple and effective. So welcome, Mary. Thank you so much for providing this webinar for us.
Thanks, Manisha. It's lovely to be here. And I think you're right that at the moment, the needs of our children are just paramount. They've had so much disruption with lockdowns and so much to adjust to. It's been a lot of stress on families, but just even that normal pathway for kids. So this is something, as you've just said, that's really dear to my heart and to Thelma's as well. So I feel very privileged to just be able to share the work that we do, and hope that it's rings a bell for somebody and is helpful.
That's wonderful. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, it might inspire and encourage a few people to take on the method and apply it. I'm sure there's so many, even for adults, not only children. So how we're going to proceed is we're going to show 2 very short videos that Mary has prepared. The first one is an introduction to what she's doing, and the second one is actually a little bit more in depth of the process of the Colournostics, how she applies that and how it actually works. So it'll give you the background information. And from that, I think that quite a few of you may have questions. And so we will get into a discussion. If you are able to put in your questions into the chat bar, and I'll see them and I'll be able to ask Mary what questions that they are, and we'll get into a juicy, interesting discussion at the end. So let's launch.
Hi, if you're a parent or a teacher or you work with kids, I can pretty much guarantee that you've heard this particular answer from your kids when you're trying to sort out something or get to the bottom of what's worrying them, upsetting them, or causing problems with other kids. I don't know. It doesn't matter how many times you delve into the problem or how many questions you ask, kids often actually don't know the answer. So we end up giving advice that somewhat hits the mark, but may not change their reactions. So I'm going to tell you about how we can bypass the I don't know and take the guesswork out of finding out what's really bothering and upsetting your child. Now, my first story is about a 10-year-old boy with a severe anger problem. He can't cope when things don't go his way. He blows up and then completely shuts off. His soccer coach and his teacher had both called his mother in to say that after these explosions, he's unreachable. He is completely isolated himself, and that can last for the rest of the day. Mum was in despair. Didn't matter what they tried, it had no effect. So when I talked with him, I asked how often he was angry, and it said most of the time. He was always angry, always reactive, and had been like this even as a young child. He was not an easy boy to work with, so it was a great surprise to get a call a few days later from a very happy mum. She had received phone calls from both the teacher and the coach to say he was a completely different boy, and what magic had she used on him. The coach was astounded because for the first time he came up to speak, but even to thank the coach after the game. Teacher says he's responsive and open all day. So what do we do in the session? Well, when he chose colours to show what happens when he shuts himself off, it revealed he was doing this as a strategy to keep a lid on his anger. I just asked when did he decide to do this, and he said Alex had told him to. Who was Alex? Older boy who had teased him when he started school, and he hated this boy. He used to get really angry at him. And then it appears that Alex got sick of the monster he had unleashed, and he said to him, hey, you're scary. You're too angry. Stay away from me. Cover up your anger. Shut yourself down, mate. Well, we unraveled this, and through the process, his colour choices guided him to clear the past and to find new ways to deal with upsets. He could actually let go and be calm. Has this change lasted? Yes. It's 3 months later. He's a calm, friendly, approachable kid who's fitting in with ease. Well, here's another child, this time an 8-year-old girl. Now, Emily had become terrified of getting out of the car when going to school. This is returning to school after the lockdowns. Her mother said, she can't handle change. She's always been like this. But her colours kept revealing her fear of being misunderstood and that she was actually quite relaxed about adapting to the new changes post-lockdown. Turns out her sister was no longer at the school. She hadn't played with her at school that much, but would go to her if she needed help to sort out conflicts with friends because she said she could speak for me. She understands me. I can't go to school if she's not there. And there was the decision. When she was stressed, she froze and clammed up and relied on her sister to speak for her. Her mother then stepped in and said, actually, she had a lot of speech difficulties when she was 4 and had a lot of speech therapy before she started school. Emily was furious her mother had told me this. So we focused on those feelings, and the colours she chose revealed her embarrassment and shame about her speech. She was still stuck in her 4-year-old self. Once that was released, she was able to update her perception of herself and trust that she's a friendly, clever girl who now speaks well. Next day, it was evident the block was gone. She simply got out of the car and said, I will be fine today, Mum. Now, in this case, we could have thought it was missing her sister, but in fact, the block was at a far deeper level of shame. Now, I see a lot of kids are being bullied, and every child builds their own belief system about themselves because of it. The colours reveal the different types of inner log different children have. Here's some examples. There's something wrong with me. I have to do what he says. I mustn't be good enough. He's better than me. She's in charge of all the friends. They'll leave me out if I don't do it. I see kids, a lot of kids, who can't sit tests or exams. They freeze, have panic attacks, and their inner dialogue goes something like this. Oh, I don't know this. Sets the heart racing. I can't do it. I'm dumb. It's too hard. Everyone else is better than me. I'll never be able to do this. I hate school. I hate reading. I hate maths. I'm useless. All of these negative beliefs increase their stress levels, their freeze, flight, and flee response. Their heart rate increases. Their mind goes blank. So I need to find what's accurate for them to switch off their stress and to switch into their calm state. Now, once that happens, their nervous system calms. Blood starts circulating again. Their mind clears, and they can think straight. We then create an anchor that links them to the session, using the colour and their chosen words so they're able to take control and manage their emotions. Regardless of what their issue is, it's always about finding out what they're saying to themselves, what they believe about the situation and about life and the world they live in. And this is where Colournostics takes away the guesswork. The child is in charge of the process because they choose the colours. I then know what the issue is and what it's about. And it also guides me to the questions I'm going to ask to help clarify things, help them join the dots to understand the situation. It builds trust and rapport because I'm on their wavelength. They don't have to go into great deal because I have understood the situation. And the colour choices are opening inner doors that have often been locked away. I remember an initially very reluctant client saying to me, how is that book reading my mind? I can't do my work without this tool. It would rely on me being an expert in this child and in every problem area. With this method, I see my clients for usually only 2 to 3 sessions. So let's have a deeper look at the process in the PowerPoint I'm going to show you.
That's wonderful, Mary. I'll proceed on to the next one because you explained quite well there. Thank you for being patient. Here we go with the second one.
Hi, and welcome to Colournostics, Working with Children. Colournostics is a 5-step process laid out like a board game. So when kids see it, they are attracted to it. They relax, they can see there's a start, and then they can see there's a finish, which is a really important thing when you're working with kids. It opens up conversation in an easy and natural way. There are 19 colours shown at the top of the board. You choose 5 colours from 19 individual colour cards, and you place your chosen colours on the board itself. You read in the book what your chosen colours mean. There are 5 specific questions to answer, and these come from NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and we have a particular module about how to ask better questions. Each step uncovers new information about the issue, it reveals inner dialogue, and it transforms perspectives and beliefs. In the 150-page manual, you'll read the meanings of your colour choices. With each card, you'll see what it reveals about your issue, and it will also open up new perspectives. Steps 1 and 2 are on the left-hand side of the board, and this is really defining the problem and the block. You need to clarify the problem, the worry, or the issue, and step 1 really defines what you are wanting to deal with. Step 2 reveals what's stopping you from solving it, what beliefs and underlying mindset are keeping you stuck in the issue. Steps 3, 4, and 5 have very specific questions, and they're designed to move you beyond the problem and your view of it. You don't pick all 5 colours at the beginning, because remember, at the beginning, you're still in the problem. It is a timeline. You are moving through it, and your perspective will change with each step. So at each step, you answer a new question and you choose a new colour. Your colour choices at each step will lead you to new solution and to experience more and more freedom of your issue. Now, kids love knowing that they have a problem-solving tool. This picture was sent to me by a mum who has the kit, and she said, this is her 8-year-old boy. He loves coming home from school. If there's a problem, he comes in the door, Mum, get the colour kit out, and they'll sit together, and this is how he'll explain a problem that he's having at school. They gain understanding about themselves and the situation. They identify what they believe about themselves and the other kids. They find out what's blocking them from solving it. They release their feelings. They feel better. So feeling free of the problem is empowering. Well, it is for us as well, isn't it? They get to experience feeling free to be their true selves. They uncover new solutions for their situation. And to keep the session fast-paced, I read from the book. but we know what the issue's about. We're talking about it. I pick out the sentences and ask them which ones sound right. Now, you can give them the book, but sometimes reading is an issue in itself for kids. And as a reading specialist, I just think it's just a lot easier for you to be connected and engaged by a conversation. You will find that you are absolutely on their wavelength. So this is the human, and this one we call the colour human. This is, we describe this in full in this particular module. I use this with children because often it is a way to capture a lot of feelings that they may find difficult to express, but it also will capture trauma, where there are physical symptoms, and often children will experience their emotions. I know I'm not worried about anything, Mum. I've just got a really, really sore tummy and I can't go to school. But I use this with adults as well. Often kids relate more to their physical feelings and their emotions, and this is a way of mapping out these feelings so that both the adult, in this case me, and the parent who's there with me, and the child get the full picture. So physical symptoms: sore tummy, anxiety, anger, fear, feeling sick, can't think. We then can relate the physical feelings to their emotions in a dialogue. Here's a child whose physical symptoms were severe. Hands were shaky, heart was always racing. She often had breathing issues. But here, once we'd done it, look, in a panic state, such high anxiety. I'm alone, I'm all wrong, I'm invisible, I don't matter, I don't want to be here. But also the physical symptoms were debilitating as well. We've gone through the process. We've now connected in to the positive colours for her, and here she is, calm, safe and secure. She can breathe again. She's equal to others. She's free. She's strong on the inside, and she can move. She knows who she is. She can relax, open up, have fun. So we create an anchor, and this is another module showing you how to do this. But we pick a colour and one phrase from the session to trigger the positive state that you feel. I add in often another step. Colour green. I just ask, feel the colour green filling you. Does that colour feel warm or cool? Because this then connects them physically and emotionally to the colour, to the feeling, and then we have I'm safe, I'm calm. Possible reactions from kids. Children release blocked energy very quickly. They yawn a lot during the session, and parents often will apologise, but I'm looking for that yawn. It's telling me that those blocks are going. The other thing children can do is get up and go to the toilet during a session. So they release very quickly. The change to freedom and joy can be instant. They can be fizzing with energy, talkative, excitable, bouncing, very affectionate and loving. So I always suggest that they need to physically integrate these new feelings, go for a run, bounce on the trampoline, ride a bike, dance, but get moving, go for a 10-minute walk. It's important to allow these changes to happen from within at their pace. This is not a disciplined method to change behaviour. When the person changes their self-beliefs at the subconscious level, the new behaviours will emerge naturally and be permanent. If you force the new behaviours, there will always be struggle and trying. If there's trying, it hasn't been solved. Observe what behaviours still remain, and that will guide the next session. So I usually say, hey, what's better, what's worse? And that way we can see what else we need to focus on. What happens next? Changes can happen straight away, or in the morning after a good sleep, or even 3 or 4 days. But then you'll just notice them looking lighter, more relaxed, more open. Their body language often changes. Many don't need their anchor, they're free. But they will be more light-hearted, happier, more confident, free to be themselves, and to reach then their full potential, which we at the moment don't know what that is while they still are stressed and closed down by their issue. And then we'll watch them blossom. Now, sometimes what happens is that the initial issue doesn't go till a couple of sessions later, but all these other things get tidied up along the way. Oh no, they're still reacting to this, still frightened about that, but they're sleeping better, or there hasn't been any fighting with their sibling, or they're offering to help with the dishes. We don't have an eating issue. So sometimes we're just always following the child's inner process. Here's a little bit about me. I've had 30 years as a teacher, and that really helps me so much in my work, because knowing how they are at school, I kind of have a pretty good idea if that's ringing true, the things that they're saying, but I also know how important it is for them to be able to feel that they're fitting into that group. And, I've worked with children with behavioural and learning difficulties, and the way that we've set up all of this information is to be able to capture all the learning styles as well. So one of the other things that helps me in my work is that I am also come from a big family. I am one of 6 children within 11 years, and 4 of those siblings are boys. So it just really gives me a lot of information about family dynamics, and so helpful for me to be able to bring that to my work. I love working with families and being able to bring harmony and problem solving and working with mum and the child. It really is working as a little team together.
That's wonderful. Very informative. I was jotting down lots of questions as that was screening, and I don't know how everyone else is going with that. I have lots of questions, but if I could ask if anyone else has questions, to please put it in the chat section so I can read that, but I'll start with mine. So I wanted to know how the Neuro-Linguistic Programming, the NLP, ties into this system.
Well, that's actually a great question, but Manisha, because it's not evident as you're now doing NLP, but the language that we've used in every single statement is gone through the NLP filter. So it's very intentional, so that particularly in the positive, I guess you would notice it, but it's the sentences can be quite are more complex than you realise. So when Thelma and I wrote the book, which probably took us, I think, about 5 years, and so we had the information, but then we're putting it into every step. So the first step is really defining the problem. So that's what the language is. It's quite sort of objective. But in there are 2 steps where we're finding the negative dialogue and then also the positive dialogue. But NLP is about language, and you can use language really effectively. And when I started out in this work, I'd been a teacher, but when I started the work, I realised I really needed to be able to ask better questions, because sometimes you ask something and it falls a bit flat. And I mean, that certainly happened to me, when I wasn't being able to open children up at school. So that's when I studied NLP, and it really is a game changer. And one of the things Thelma and I found was that by writing the book in this way, we have really distilled all that information for you. You're not going to be sitting there knowing that you have all the techniques of NLP, but you will be speaking in an NLP way. And this was something that was brought home to me. I had a wonderful friend who had been in psychiatric nursing, and she had done many, many courses, and we did a lot of those together. But one of the things she was very, very good at was just in conversation. She was actually, in many ways, in therapy, but it was so conversational, because you don't want to feel that you've sat down with somebody and they say, oh, well, now I'm going to help them switch into therapy mode. And even if you do it with your friends, they don't like it. It's just being able to ask a simple question like, gosh, if this was all over, what would it be like? That's NLP. You've just switched them right into the future. You've acknowledged the problem, but you're just being able to shift from past to future to present. And that's why the book took so long. Everything went through that filter, every single line. And then when we had it edited, we asked a magazine editor who was also very skillful at just really being clear, what is it you want to say? And so that, I feel, is where the NLP aspect comes in. The basic timeline is what we're seeing in the 5 steps.
Okay, so you've embedded that technique into the specific questions and the script of the actual process. I had this thought, and one of our participants, Angelica, has actually asked this, so I don't know if it's possible, but she's saying, Mary, would you be able to perform this process online? I had actually thought the same thing, because it would give us a real live, active, experiential view of the process. Is that possible that we could do a very short one, or how long does the process actually take?
Well, we could, but it is probably better if people are interested for us to do that separately. We, over the course of developing the modules, we have also been able to set up an online version where we can do it online, and that really has been a game changer for us, and it's something that other therapists are able to use. And this really came out of lockdown, where we can't see our clients. People were holding up the book and doing things, we're doing Zoom, but this is now a process that you can do online. I don't know if we could really do that right now. I'd have to check with Thelma, but certainly if people are interested, we could certainly set up another date, because it's just that technical side of being able to open up the process.
How long does the actual process take for, I guess that varies from person to person, but on average, how long would the technique take?
Well, it's really, you can do it in, you could probably do it in 10 minutes. I mean, children can race through it like in 20. Generally, a younger child will be, look, it just depends. About say 20 to 40 minutes. I mean, adults need longer, because often there's a lot more information. But again, it just depends. And often with adults, when that whole perspective is transforming, they are bringing up, the colours will bring up the subconscious, and then they're needing to bring that's now burst into their conscious mind. So you are really wanting to make that connection. But children also need to do that. So it's not a long process. But if we were doing it online, I think if we had 20 minutes for people to be able to do it, you can do it quite quickly.
To get some clarification around the process for people who haven't used it, and I have not used it, so I would like more clarification too. There are 5 questions, specific questions, which are asked. Is that correct? And does the person answer with a colour selection? Can you give us an example maybe of one of the questions or a couple of the questions, and what actually, how it goes?
Well, look, it's very simple. The first question is that, what is the problem? So, if you've come and you're talking to somebody, you've often told them the problem. You've said, let's just pick something very simple that, I don't know, think of a situation, but just, so what exactly is this problem? So, you might be very stressed about money, for instance. Okay, let's just define it. What exactly is going on? So people can do a lot of talking. So how do you feel about that? What do you feel about that? Pick the color. And then that will then define what it is. Now, the next question is, what's stopping you from solving it? That's the question. What's stopping you from solving it? Because if you could have solved it, you would have. And that block, you don't answer, rather than doing the usual thing of talking about it, just find me the color of the block.
Okay.
When you get that color, you pick the color first and let the colors do the talking. And then we open the book. You've got 25 statements there. What is that revealing to me? And that's really the inner self-talk. That's the subconscious block. And that is, even for me, when I do the process on myself, I wrote the book, and Thelma's the same. We've written it and we'll say, oh my gosh, didn't know that was there. It's because it's in that moment. This has nothing to do with your favorite colors or whatever, because it's just in the moment. In this moment, what is blocking me? And that color will change all the time. We then do a clearing process. Sorry, you want to add a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, just for clarification. So there's 5 questions and the person has the opportunity to respond verbally, but as well as that, they choose a color which is appropriate for the answer, and it's done intuitively, and that will be then channeled into an interpretation or several interpretations. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's really just finding the statements that resonate for them. So, for instance, the girl I spoke about, the video quality wasn't very good, but the girl I spoke about who was saying, mum thought, oh, she can't cope with change. Oh, that wasn't the problem. The block was, first of all, her sister wasn't there to speak with her, but the real block was actually her shame about speaking. And if she was ever under stress, she just clammed up. So how would we have found that? Because really it can veer off into what seems the obvious way. This process allows me to step out and to ask, which color would you choose to explain this? Sometimes if I'm not clear, I'll say, oh, well, so what I could have said was, when you're in the classroom, what color would you choose? And then I'm able to piece together a lot of information. So we let the colors do the talking. The breakthrough question is this: if everything was solved, what would it be like? Without you knowing how, but if everything was solved, what would it feel like? Now, that's actually quite a big mental and emotional process to shift to that. People want to speak, but if you speak, you've gone into the conscious mind, you've gone into the rational mind, and remember, you've been in the problem. Choose the color of what it would be like if this problem was solved. And people think, oh, I don't know why I'm picking this one, but this is the one. This has got something to say to me. And that color itself has already, it's come from your subconscious. It's come from those deepest emotional layers. And then it will shift your perspective, because you've said, if it was solved, I have moved there, and you're using a different part of the brain. So when we say a picture tells 1,000 words, what we're saying is the color is those 1,000 words. And carry on.
In the system, when the person chooses a color, then the interpretation book, it gives you mentioned that there's several different statements. So I imagine the person then goes through the statements and they choose the one which is most appropriate. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Yes, because there's generally about 5 themes, but even the way that it's presented, the words, it'll be, some people say it is every statement on the page. They'll say there's only one statement, but it has really just pierced my heart. It's so clear. It's like that boy that I was telling you about in the video. He was very reluctant, did not want to be there. But then he said, It's reading my mind. How is it doing that? But in fact, he's already told me. He's picked the colour. And this is where that authenticity is. I'm not giving any advice. Well, I am afterwards, but they've told me. They're guiding me to be able to help them join the dots. So those statements, sometimes it's several statements around a theme, sometimes it's just one. So it could be something like, the statement that might jump out at you might be, I take the bull by the horns, I face the problem head on. Just something like that, and people just are energized, and emotionally and mentally, it is a transformation of their perspective.
So what you're saying with the solution, because I was quite curious, once you identify what the true problem is, the next step to actually apply the process to change the core beliefs that they're holding, does that come in a form of a statement that the child then takes with them to practice that statement, or how is the transformation happening? What are the tools to allow that to happen?
So, you know, the picture, I will use the picture because it's quite an easy way to see that. There they've laid it down out on the table. This is my issue. This is how bad I feel. Now, you could just do that with a couple of colours, but yes, this is how I feel. Do you want to stay like that? No, this is why I've come. So shall we say, now have we got all the information we need? Are you ready to move on? We just use something like a waterfall. I mean, in our modules, I have a whole pile of alternatives. I mean, I use giant birds, I use going to space, but anything to say, let's release that and clear that space, make space for something new. So we use the waterfall. Let's clear that away. And just for a few moments, let's take on something different, but you've got to clear some space. Then, if it was solved, if you had moved on, if it was a year from now and all this was magically solved and you've even forgotten that you've come to me, but you've solved it, what colour would you choose? Not how did you solve it, not what do you think about, what colour would you choose? And you then work only with, let the colours talk for you. The colours will be far more accurate. People will, if they go to answer, they'll often take themselves back into the problem. But the colours are bypassing that rational mind and moving you along at the subconscious level.
And so if they choose...
It's kind of a bit magical, Manisha. It is really, but then that's the NLP aspect. It's just language. It is saying that, if you could conceive of this, if it was solved, without you even having to figure it out, and I'm not even letting your conscious mind confuse you, I'm just saying choose a colour. It really is so easy to do, and yet very, very profound.
So when they choose the colour that represents how they would feel when the problem is solved, what do you do with that colour? Do you do anything with that colour?
Yeah. Well, so again, that in the video, in the PowerPoint, where there was that final statement. So hers was, she had the green, that was the colour. So I always like to connect to the energy. If this is the colour you've chosen, just feel that colour filling you. And even if you do that right now, if you were just all to imagine green, feel that colour filling you from your head, just down through your throat, into your heart, your tummy, down your legs and into your feet. Now, for you, does that colour feel warm or cool?
Why do you ask that question?
The reason I do is I'm only asking that because you have to now think about what that feels like in your body. And when you've thought about what it feels like in your body, I know now you've connected to it physically. Because a lot of people just think about it up here and mentally. Really, I want them, if I ask you, is it warm or cool? Did you notice how you started to calm when you felt that going through your body? If you feel a colour going through your body, it will have an effect because it's the energy of the colour. And then I also know that they have connected to it at a deep level. And then once you've felt that colour, I'm calm, I'm safe, I'm calm. Now, I could ask her just to connect to the colour, but, you know, that then can set up a bit of a block. But when I say, is it warm or cool, I've asked a completely different question. And in connecting to the temperature, we've bypassed the rational mind again. Oh yeah, feels. And then the next time they do it, that colour might be cool. So it's not whether it is warm or cool, it's just in this moment, does it feel warm or cool?
So I imagine there must be a few different visualizations to encourage or allow the person or the child to experience that color. I don't know if you did mention waterfall. I've also heard of one where the cranium, the top, there's like a hole in the center where the color enters through there and enters the body. But are there special visualizations that assist a person to get that color into their system?
So what I do, having been a teacher and having, especially with kids with learning difficulties, you're always thinking, you know, how can I make it easy for this child to understand? You know, what signs is this child telling me? What key do they need? So I have several visualizations that I use to clear the block, and I just am watching the child. And for some children, it will be a release that I want it to go out the feet. For another, often, and for most children, they kind of like it to be taken out of them. And so I'll just tell you what the one I often use is, I just say, here's a giant white bird that's come into the room. And I say to them, look, this is fantasy. You and I both know there is no giant bird, but just go with me. Just listen to my story. So here's a giant white bird. It's come into the room and it can see everything. It can see all the troubles that you've had. It can see how you're trying to cope, but it can also see the future and all these other possibilities. Now, this giant bird is just going to drop down this just magical piece of, like a parachute. It's just going to gently close around your shoulders. And it's like glad wrap. It's just coming and it's just wrapping up all the troubles that you've told me about from every single part of your body, like a giant sausage glad wrap. None of it can leak out. So now that giant bird's going to lift it, takes it up out of your feet, and I just go right out of the body, the tummy, the heart, out through a hole in your head, way, way high in the sky as you're watching. 3 giant bolts of lightning hit it, burst into flames. And that just activates like this beautiful rainfall inside you, just cleaning and washing away. And then here comes the giant bird, taking you on its back, taking you off into the stars and the planets to find new thoughts, feelings, and ideas that you've never had before. And they will be balls of colour. So off you go, gather those up. And then here you are back in the room. Which colours did you bring back? Oh, and off they go.
Wonderful.
So it's just because you've then taken them beyond the issue, but you are also wanting to use all of the subconscious imagery. The mind thinks in pictures. We think that therapy is all about words, but actually images are so much more powerful. And this is NLP. So all of this is embedded in the process, is what you don't see. And then on top of that, or combined with that, you have all of the color psychology. So for Thelma, this is 2 bodies of work. We've got all Thelma's 20 odd years of experience of color psychology, and then you've got my learning styles and all the NLP. They're 2 whole separate bodies of work, and we've put them together. And so that's what makes the process quite different. And so we're constantly challenging and checking each other to see that these 2 things have gelled.
That's wonderful. Just another couple of questions that I find it very fascinating. Does the child need to take away any process to do at home, or is really the session that you do with them enough for their change?
So again, as I said in that slide, that what we're looking for is how much has the subconscious taken on. So it's not a behavioral change. I am wanting to see what happens, but if they may just need that anchor, like the word, just to remind them. They love taking home the picture if that's what I've used for them. They may just want that colour, but really, if the change has truly happened, they're free. So the boy I told you about at the beginning, the very angry boy, I myself, when he left, thought, oh, that we are going to have a problem here, because he was not easy to deal with. It had cleared. That block had cleared. Now, I have seen, when I saw him the next time, he's in, he sits down, he's super active. When he has finished that process, there's lots of yawning, he goes to the toilet, whatnot. Then when it's finished, I know it's finished because I can see he is clear. He has cleared the issue. The block has gone. You see,
how can you see that?
Has gone.
How can you see that it's gone? What?
Well, it's the eyes light up, his body language is different, the things he is saying, but actually the colours he is choosing. The colours he's choosing. And look, here's a really, it's a very simple thing to show you how quickly a perspective can change. You might be in the supermarket and then somebody bumps into you and you might think, oh, well, that's annoying. And then you look around and you see that, and you could be annoyed. Oh, who's doing that? They should be more polite. Then you see, oh my gosh, it's an old man, and he's barely able to hold up his trolley, and he's slipped, and you just suddenly, your whole perspective has changed, hasn't it? Because you've seen it differently. That's what the colours will do. Now, if you try to do that in words, it's just so much harder because we hold on to the meanings we've put into things. So we're bypassing the meaning that you've put into it.
And could you just explain, you mentioned the word anchor. What do you mean, and what are some examples of the anchors? That's something that the child takes away with them that helps them change, or could you explain that?
So, Manisha, I have to say, for somebody that hasn't done the process, you ask amazing questions.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah, you really do. I mean, it's like you've really understood the process. You're asking great questions. The anchor, but I can see that you're thinking, tell me if I'm right, you're thinking, oh, they've got to be able to take this away for it to keep on reminding them.
No, I'm curious to know whether it's just done in the session or whether there is something that they need to take with them as a reminder, as confirmation.
They can take a reminder, but the work is done in the session. The work is done in the session because we've cleared the block. Now, we might need, and once that block is cleared, it's permanent. Now, it doesn't mean we've cleared every tendril of every problem. And I always say there's a part 1 and a part 2 when I'm working with kids. So I want to see how much of the block is cleared with the first one, because then I say to the mum, what's changed? What's better? What's worse? Is this thing still, which part of it is still there? But the things we've cleared, I don't go back over that ground because that's gone. Now, with that boy, it's that they're being bullied. We may have cleared one aspect, but there may be another one that comes in. But we do the work in the session, but then they like to have a reminder. And sometimes kids will say, oh, I want something pink. I'll put a pink stone in my pocket, but you only use it for 2 or 3 days. And then they think about their colour. But it is always really nice to be able, when they go to sleep, and just think of your colour, think of the temperature. And it would be a really good thing for the people on the webinar tonight. Just try that. Just think of a colour that will help you, just a colour that feels comforting and soothing, and allow you to have a good night's sleep. Don't worry about the meaning of it. You'll find a colour that you love. I have a colour that I find very soothing, and I have a couch in that colour, and when I look at it, it just gives me a sense of well-being.
That's great.
Now, somebody else will have a different colour for that, but that's, I love that color. I love having that color in my life. And yeah, it's just how it feels for me. And do you know, most people will say to you, I love color. And that's why when we talk about Colournostics, I mean, I could talk to you about NLP, about all of this stuff that's embedded, but actually the simple thing is people love color. We're actually connected to color. It's really a gift that, you know, radio waves we don't see, but color is an energy that we're actually lucky enough to see. And if you were to ask, I mean, Thelma does a fabulous thing, you know, what's your favorite color? What's a color you don't like? And just getting that information about the color you don't like it is very revealing. So there's lots and lots of ways to use it. So this is what we say, this is a very simple process to do very profound work.
That's wonderful. I've got just one more question before I ask you a little bit more about the actual, if there's training or anything, or the system. But Lynn has asked, to what extent is the phrasing of the questions culturally and or linguistically based?
Well, it's just really an NLP question to move them along the timeline. So, for instance, and we do a whole module on alternative questions you ask, because remember, it's not about the question about me. It's about, does this question land with that person? So I guess that's from having been a teacher, where you can explain things beautifully and the kid doesn't understand it. So, I mean, you're always looking for, have I presented it in a way that has opened up the information? But this step 2 is a good one. You know, what's blocking you from moving forward? What's stopping you from solving it? Because as I go back to that, if you could have solved it, you would have. But something is stopping you. So just, you can rephrase that culturally. And of course, I adapt it for the child. So if I've got a 5-year-old, I ask them in a very simple way. If I have a 45-year-old man, I will have to rephrase that question often in lots of different ways, because they often have a very strong view of how the process is going to go. I mean, I've had people come with written answers, and I think, well, I'm not even asking you those questions. So, you know, I'm just then, so with children, I'll be quite playful. You saw in the video how I had the session set up with the girl. I laugh a lot in the sessions. We joke. And even when they pick the serious color, I say, oh my God, that must be terrible. And then they'll, you know, because we now are putting the issue on the table. When you pick that card and put it on the table, you've done exactly that. You have laid it out on the table. It's no longer in your heart. You've shared it in a very clear way by laying it there. Now we can look at your problem on that board. We can see what's going on for you. It's just such a relief for people to get it out there and to be able to put it on the table. Then you can decide, do I still want that? And if I have people who've have a lot of therapy speak, and I mean, gosh, we've all done it, and I mean, I've gone through those processes as well. But actually, it's really not going down the same old paths. Let me take you down a different path, and a different path of thinking. And for instance, if you were frightened, it's very hard to say, well, if you weren't frightened, what would you do? Well, I am frightened. How can I conceive of that? But if I said, if you weren't frightened and you actually, it's a year on and you're a confident, you know, or it's a year on and all of these issues are solved. And we don't know how. I don't know how. You don't know how. But if it was all solved and you were free of that issue, if you were free of this issue, what color would you choose? It's a very powerful breakthrough question if you think about it.
That's wonderful. I'm impressed.
I hope, Lynn, I hope that answers your question.
Lynn, hopefully, yes. And I just wanted to ask you, Mary, so is this technique available to train people, or do you offer the sessions, or how? Yeah, is there a training, or how do you offer this work to the public?
Another great question, Manisha. I mean, surely you must have researched all this. I don't know. Have you? But so yes, look, we do have. We have the toolkit, and that in itself, even the way that we chose to do it on the board when we first initially did that was to explain to people at a glance what to do. There are 5 steps. You can see at a glance what you have to do. And that's why it's done on the board. There are 5: a start, a finish, and this is the pattern that you go. So from there, we have also built up a whole part of training modules, just how the process works, the basic ones. So we have one, the 5-step process, or to ask better questions, and then you don't have a big problem every day, but you do want to be able to set your attitudes every day. So we have like a quick problem solve, so those are what we call our fundamental. Thelma's going to very helpfully show these. So we have decided, just for this, because this is about children, Thelma and I wanted to offer something a little different for people who've come to this webinar. But we really want to see, we've got so many kids who are struggling. So this is a very, very, very special price just for you people. And it's not on our website. The prices are quite different, but this is open just to you people. And we are going to offer you the opportunity to be able to get the toolkit plus the fundamental with the toolkit. So by the time you've done these 3, you really will know how to successfully use the kit, the toolkit, and these 3 modules. So it's a full training.
How long does that go for? What are the sort of hours, or is it self-paced or live training?
Self-paced, and the total number of hours, just depending on the pace that you go. But if you were to go onto the website, you would see just how much information is in there. This is for personal use. You get the toolkit, and you have this information. The next one is if you're a coach, or somebody, a coach, or even a teacher, but probably if you're already working with kids, not just children, obviously, because I have adult clients as well. But this one here is, we have a vision board. This is the one I'm talking about here, the Colournostics with children. And here's Colournostics, how you can use it with physical symptoms. So there's lots and lots of applications. If you are a coach, you might want to run your own workshops. But the thing that we have developed is you can subscribe to a platform that allows you to bring this information up and do an online session. So I now would do a quarter of my clients at the moment on Zoom. During lockdown, had to do all of them on Zoom. And being able to have this done so professionally is a real game changer. We think that's we're just talking to people all around the world being able to use this one here. So if you're, we call this the professional package, and then this is a discount just for ALA and just because it's kids. We are giving you a special discount code, but it's not on the website, so you will need to email me, and then I will be able to do that, set it up personally for you. I hope is that clear, Manisha?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a training, there's a basic personal course, and then with 3 modules, and there's also a professional one. It's self-paced. and fairly detailed by the sounds of it. And then there's also those prices that you quoted before, were they the discount prices?
Can you just go back, Thelma?
I think it was
Yes.
$3.99 was.
When you see the price on the website, and that's what we usually sell it for, you'll realise that this is a very special discount.
So the $3.99 is the special, or is that what's on the?
That's the special. That's the special.
Great. Okay, excellent.
So, that's a very big special. But you're right, Manisha. There's so much information. What Thelma and I, when we decided that we would launch this toolkit, we'd already created the program. Thelma and I have worked together for over 10 years. We said, we've got to do it. We're in our 60s, and we said, look, we're going to put absolutely everything we know into this before something happens to us. Yeah, anything could happen to us, before we lose our marbles or before we have grandchildren. So we just said, look, we know this stuff works. We've got lots of clients. Let's try and this is a culmination of all of our work. It's got all my learning styles work. It's got all my teaching. It's got all Thelma's expertise in colour psychology. And she, just her depth of knowledge is phenomenal. We just said, let's just put it there and get it out there. We've then just wanting to make these modules, that knowledge, as accessible as possible to people. We've refined them. We have Jeanette in Hannenberg in Belgium, and she has been gone through these with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that this knowledge and that the standard of it is high, so that you are getting a really good quality experience. We want you to be able to use it. We want you to be able to be successful. But the main thing that what we know is that you can integrate it into your work. If you're a teacher, you can very easily just have the book and some cards, but you have to know what you're doing. If you're a coach, you may have your own system. I know kinesiologists who add it into their session, but what you have to have is the manual. Because without that knowledge, without that language, really, you've got the colours, but you're not able to link the subconscious and the conscious meanings. And the minute you get those meanings, suddenly you are really, your whole world opens up, and you are now then connected to colour. When you're connected to colour, it really does open up your world.
I've got a few comments here that I'd like to read out, a couple of questions too. Do you mind if I just go a little bit more, and then we'll call it an evening? So we've got Janeka. She's saying it is possible to do Colournostics in half an hour with kids. With adults, it takes more time because they think more about what is going on. That's a really good point. And she says, yesterday I worked with a girl of 15 who could not tell what her feelings were, but choosing a colour was an easy thing. I love that. So, and then she goes on and she's saying in the end, she made a symbol on a little white rock that gave her a good feeling, and she left with a smile on her face. That's wonderful.
Wonderful. That's a big change, isn't it? The thing that I notice in a session is that the children, the body language changes, and over time, if I've had them, I'm watching to see, maybe because I've been a teacher for a long time, you're always watching every little clue they're giving you. But they'll walk in, I think, oh, that child's walking differently. They're more upright, the way they sit in the chair. But actually, for children, if you lift that block emotionally, then you'll see the physical change. In reality, it is the same for adults as well. If you see somebody who's hunched over, they're like this, it's just years and years of having a certain mindset. So it certainly does. teachers will say, oh, something's different. You can see it in the children.
That's wonderful. I've also got Sarah with a comment. I really like the way you demonstrated the big bird visualization, Mary. It really slows down and brings calmness. Beautiful alternative for the waterfall. I also like the human addition to the 5-step process. What is the origin of that? Do you mind explaining that just a little bit? Have we got time?
Well, the origin is really with children, and probably when I was starting out, how do I keep this child's attention, or how do I help this child really connect to what's going on? So if I have a child that is, maybe not listening, or is extremely tense, and sometimes very frightened even about coming, something I will do is connect them to being calm. So everything we're doing is trying to switch off the stress response and switch on the calm one. But the initially I would just draw a man. Hey, show me where you feel that. But then the more I did it, the more I realized, oh gosh, so that your best friend told a lie about you. How did that feel? Did that feel like a knife or a rock? So I'm really trying to get them to connect their fingers. Oh, no, that's a knife. Where did you feel it? Was it in your back, in your heart? No, it's in my heart, and it's still there. I've had a kid say, should we just, you really want to connect it physically. So it just really came about because of that. How do I make sure that the child has understood this? But then I realized just how powerful it is to be able to see what is actually going on in your body. When that little girl showed that high state of panic, she was not showing any of that. Her mother had brought her and said, oh, I'm worried about her. She's a bit withdrawn. Her mother was in tears. She just had not realized the absolute terror this child was in 90% of the day. She had changed countries, become fire lockdowns, just a huge disruption. She just could not settle. But to see it written out there, and then when the child sees it, and I'll say, is there anything else? Is there a colour we've missed? They'll look around the colours. Yes, we've missed that colour. Where are we going to put it? Do you want to stay like that? And they'll say, no, I don't want to be like that, because one of the things that, you can talk at them and explain all those things, but you really want them to see it. So that's where the human came. Having been a teacher, I think I'm used to dealing with equipment. When you teach your own child how to count, you don't write it on the blackboard, do you? You get, 3 little blocks plus 2 little blocks. You try and make it concrete. And really the colours are a concrete way of expressing the emotions. So it is actually a really, really complex program. And then when you get into the modules and we explained it all, you can see the complexity. But the main thing is it has so many applications. I mean, even our vision board process, that's a completely different way of using it. So you don't have to do it exactly, get the board out every time. You may have the if you're a master, some kind of therapist, or you have your own way of coaching, but you want that information for the colour so that you're getting what their true, where the sabotage is, what their self-talk is, what their inner dialogue is. It's very hard to find that. And as I say, we've written a book. We still choose the colours to find that as well.
So have you included the human exercise in the course as well as some of the visualizations? Is that part of?
So all those visualizations alternative are part of the fundamental course that will be in the Ask Better questions, because that's all NLP stuff. And I will just say about that, that thing about the giant bird, it just seems like a story, but actually I'm very careful about the language I've chosen. I know why I'm saying it. I know why I've asked that to explode. I know why I've said that's gone. And now here we are taking you into the future. So, we go out into outer space because we want new thoughts, new feelings, new ideas that you've never thought of before. So I've been very clear on why I'm using those images. So all of that's in the fundamental, but the human is in the children's one. So that's part of the professional one. That's the one that I've been showing you now, working with kids.
Wonderful.
So that's, there's a lot of information in that one, because that's you're more probably going to be a therapist if you're of some kind, if you're using that one.
I've just got one last little question, and that is, how does it work for people who are colourblind?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. Look, it just does, because they're not colourblind in every colour, number one, but also people will often say, oh, I can't choose anything. Can you just turn the cards over and I will just pick that way? So, yeah, it's really the energy of the colour. What colour do you... what colour do you think it will be? It is amazing what the human brain will do. And here's the other thing about the colours. This is not, you must do it this way and stick to it. And, when we were first doing the course, people say, oh, what if I said this? Will that be wrong? It is never, ever wrong. If that wasn't the right question, ask it differently. And somebody might choose the colour and they say, oh no, I think it should be this colour. Oh, well, try it. Have a look at the information. Wasn't that one? Then they say, yeah, actually, I really wanted to pick that colour, but I thought I should pick this one. Okay, go with the one that you feel. Look, we've had somebody with no sight do this. And you just, colour is an energy. Colour is an energy. So everybody can work with it.
Oh, that's wonderful. You've explained it really well, because I've been a complete newbie to this system and I was very curious. So thank you for being patient and responding to all my queries. I think it's really painted a good, thorough picture of what you're doing. And I'm so impressed that both between you and Thelma, the NLP, the colour knowledge and your teaching knowledge, and you've put together this system. I think it's incredible. It sounds wonderful.
Well, Thelma has also been training consultants in colour for 20 years. So we've been, in our various ways, we have been running workshops, training people to be able to make a change in their own lives. And of course, when you've got a family, as soon as you made a change in your life, you really want the best for your families as well. So we want it to be used personally, but we also know that that for coaches and therapists, it is a tool. We had a woman who coached accountants. She said, I never told them that I was using this because it would have freaked them out. But she said she'd often just say, she'd use a colour. Oh, she said, just humour me. You know how this, you just can't, you're still stuck in this pattern. What does it feel like? Choose a colour. She said that's been a breakthrough for them. So she was using the information for herself to help her clients. They weren't sitting there with the colour board. So it really is what you want to make of it.
Lots of applications. I've just got a little feedback here from Janeka again, saying it's an awesome tool. And also Angelica said that she needed to go early. She said it's wonderful and incredibly informative presentation, lovely process, so important for kids these days who have suffered so much during the last 2 years. Thank you for your work, Mary and Thelma. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I just want to thank you for coming on tonight and presenting this webinar. It's been great.
Thanks, Manisha. Yeah, and really, as we said, if it can benefit children, I think we're all united in just finding whatever technique it is or process if we can find things, let's get out there and do it, and this is why we're offering this as a special, because, we really do we know this can help, and we want to make it accessible. So thank you. And thanks for your amazing questions. Hey, I'm very impressed.
That's excellent.
You made it very easy.
We're making a recording of this and making it available through the ILA website. And so will the special be available for people who purchase the webinar after this as well? The special...
I will have to chat to Thelma.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll contact you
yes.
and ask. We'll clarify that at the time.
Yes. We can follow when you send out the email. We'll have already decided all those things on time frames for the special and things. So it was just really. I think it was our idea today when we're thinking about children. We probably haven't thought this fully through in terms of being able to put that on the website. So we'll add that information in a website. As you can see, we are really about getting that work out there, and sometimes that business thing comes a bit second, but we will make sure that we get that information to you and answer any questions people have got. We just flick us an email. We're always happy to chat.
I'm so glad you and Thelma decided to create this course. It's you've just got to go for it in life, don't you, when you've got something valuable to share. So it's not lost, and you keep the ball rolling. So yeah, it's awesome you've done that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, good night, Mary, and good night, everybody who's come onto the call.
Thank you.
Yes, we really appreciate it. And we will have another webinar next month, and we'll let you all know. But in the meantime, everyone stay well. And thank you so much again, Mary. Good night.
And Manisha, if I could just make one offer. If there are, we would be at a later stage, yes, if you want more information just about the process itself, yes, we are open to that as well. So yeah,
excellent.
Thank you, everyone. And remember, just find that colour that's just going to give you a peaceful night, or it could be a colour that you're going to. What kind of day are you going to decide to have tomorrow? Choose your colour. You might choose clothes in it, or you just might connect to the energy. Is it warm or cool? Just try it. I'm sure everyone's got a favourite colour. Everyone's got a colour that helps them. So give it a go.
That's wonderful. Good advice. Thank you again. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.